We're doing something a little bit different on this episode of the Wake Up to Your Life podcast. We have a guest host. This is producer Kristen Stegall of Novice Studios. She's the one who brings you this podcast every week. Producer Kristen, thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're the guest host, and I am the interview subject.
Yes.
This is what we're doing today.
Yes.
In part because sometimes I get lonely talking on here by myself. So thanks for agreeing to ask me some questions. But what did you title this episode?
This episode, so originally we were going to call it Not Accepting Booty Calls at This Time. And as we were talking through the content of the episode, we've actually decided to call it the Booty Call to Self-Love Pipeline. And that is the theme and vibe of today's episode.
3, 2, 1. Hi, I'm Colleen Odegaard. One day, I was an Emmy Award-winning television journalist, married to the love of my life, and had 2 beautiful children living under my roof. Then one day, I woke up to a life I didn't recognize. Divorced, in a career transition, with my 2 boys grown and out of the house. I had to get really comfortable being alone really fast, or I was going to lose my shit. This podcast is about reinventing yourself in a new season of life, getting to know yourself again, and having more peace, more love, more levity. This is Wake Up to Your Life. I think what happened is I got kind of shy. I was going to tell you guys some funny dating stories, and then I don't want to throw anyone under the bus and embarrass anybody. Not that I would name names, but I just feel a little uncomfortable talking about that. Mm-hmm. But really what the theme of this was, as Kristen and I were talking through this, was that some of my disastrous dating fiascos on the heels of my divorce really led me into this journey of self-love, which sounds really soft and fluffy, but it's not.
It's not
at
all.
And it's what I want for everybody else too.
Yes, I love it. So we can share some dating stories, and we know that you guys want to hear some dating stories, but at the end of the day, this podcast is about Colleen. And our dating experiences and love and marriage and divorce and all the things are about us as people and individuals. Yes, there are side supporting characters that come into the story along the way, but ultimately this episode is about the lessons learned from those experiences. So tell me a little bit about some of those initial dates post-divorce and kind of your expectations going into it and what ended up happening when you went on those first few dates.
Well, to give you a sense of my frame of mind when I first started dating, I did that way too soon after my divorce. I was really still in a tizzy. I was reeling. I was coming undone and started dating people, I think, 3 months after my ex-husband had moved out. So we were only separated. I wasn't divorced. We were separated. And my state of mind was I was just not the delight that I am now, but I was so depressed. And my self-esteem was in the toilet, like in the bottom of a gas station restroom, repulsive, disgusting toilet. That's where it was because I did not want this divorce and I felt so rejected, incredibly unwanted. So I'm operating from that state of mind and then think, oh, it'd be a great idea to go on some dates. So it was kind of from people who had heard I was separated. They reached out, a couple of friends who set me up with people. That's kind of how it happened. I wasn't on any dating apps or anything like that. It just sort of happened organically. People I'd meet when I was out, that sort of thing. And I think that my expectation was I was just going to go out with these great guys and it was going to be so wonderful and it would be so easy and that they'd be looking for the same thing that I was looking for. But the problem was I didn't even really know what I was looking for. I think back then I thought, oh, I would like to find someone to be in a relationship with. I know now that I just wanted companionship. I was looking for a Band-Aid over the wound and busying myself with men who I didn't even stop to bother to ask myself, do I like him? How do I feel when I'm in the presence of this other human being?
Right.
I was more fixated on, oh, he likes me. He said he had a crush on me for years. And now that I'm single, he wants to take me out. Oh my gosh, that's so flattering. I was fixated on that because it was my way of saying to my ex-husband, look here, you mofo, all these dudes want me. You don't? Well, they do.
Retribution.
So, yes, it was. So I think that my expectation, I didn't even pause long enough to think, what am I hoping to get out of this? I just wanted to not feel the pain.
Right.
And that's why I think it's dangerous for some, not everyone. These are not hard and fast rules. Everybody has to figure this out for themselves if they're dating after divorce. But you really have to take some time. I think it's what's best. And I'll hear people say, well, I was done in my marriage for a long time, so now I'm ready to go out and have fun. And maybe that's true. And maybe that is true for some people. I found for me that it was not the case. My heart was so broken, I needed to put it back together again. And I hoped that making out with cute guys was going to be the way to do that, but it didn't. It only made me feel emptier. If I had a couple glasses of wine and I went on a date and was feeling myself, feeling all sexy, and I make out with some guy and then don't hear from him again for a week, that made me feel like shit. That did not help. It only made me feel worse. I had to know that I was going to be okay on my own. It just took me way too long to learn that lesson. And the point in doing this episode, Kristen, I think you'll concur, even if you are a married person, this isn't just about dating. I'm talking about when you accept breadcrumbs in your life, whether it is from a situationship or someone you're involved with, and he or she is not fully committed to you. You're doing a little more chasing than the other person is. It never feels quite equal. It never feels the love, the attention, the affection doesn't feel quite reciprocated. You're accepting breadcrumbs. You have to look at why is that. If this is in your marriage, you have to look at why is that. If this is at work, if this is in your professional life, if you're going to work and you're yes, sir, yes, ma'am, and you're a yes person and you're doing all these things because you don't want to piss anybody off, so you say yes to everything and you're not getting promoted and you feel taken advantage of, you're settling for breadcrumbs instead of doing promotable work.
Yes.
Saying no to the stuff that any warm body in the office can do and saying yes to the stuff that makes a difference in the company's bottom line or in what they value, saying yes to that. So this is kind of for anybody who's accepted less than in any arena of their life, in your friendships, in relationships with family members. If you feel taken advantage of, that's who this episode is for.
Yes. I think that there's a loneliness epidemic that's happening right now. We're seeing it in a lot of friendship contexts as well. And I'm sure that there was also a little bit of a reckoning with your friendships, your friend groups when you went through your divorce as well. So you're looking for not just romantic companionship, also just friendship. And so I think that is where we can get stuck sometimes or get caught in, whoever is willing to give me attention, whether I'm into it or not. And kind of settling for that. So maybe let's talk about friendships a little bit.
Sure.
So what was going on there from that perspective? We've got the romantic situationships, but then there can be friendship situationships as well. So what happened with your friendships when you were going through separation and divorce?
So with my very closest friends, they became even stronger and more intimate. So I'm grateful for that. But then there were the next tier out friendships, right? I've got some friends who will stay with me, I'm pretty convinced, until the day that I die. They're lifers. I do believe that. I mean, things could change, but I do believe that. And what happened, though, with other friendships, I think during the divorce, there were couple friends that we had.
Yes.
And specifically, there were two couples we were very tight with and we traveled with. Our kids all got along. It was a very special time of life. I mean, we spent so much time at beaches and ski trips and hanging out, cooking on the weekends while the kids all ran around and played, and we were all friends. Well, when the divorce happened, there was one of those couples that kind of went off with my ex. And it was so strange to me because I thought, well, you're my friend too. I don't quite understand why this is happening. And I was kind of hanging on and never got a text, never got a call, nothing. It was
That's rough.
It was really hard, and I loved these people. It was very painful, and hung on to that pain for a long time. And I would tell you, I'm still not even totally over it. I'm not.
I get that.
I'm still not over it. But I think the point there was that I was spending a lot of time thinking about them, being angry at them, instead of feeling my feelings about it, processing it, and moving on. So therefore, accepting breadcrumbs in a sense,
Yes.
meaning that I can't believe it, and they don't reach out to me, and oh my gosh. And then another friend would say, oh, she's asking about you. I said, well, if she's asking about me, why doesn't she just reach out to me? And I'd get so offended. Again, I was very reactive, and all my nerve endings were exposed, as if I was just one big giant walking nerve ending. I was ready to be offended and be hurt and all of that. So yeah, so I would say in those friendships post-divorce, there was definitely I was hanging on to that, which in effect was accepting breadcrumbs. However, I know that listeners, and perhaps you've experienced this too, Kristen, a lot of people are in these friendships that they feel like they would like them to go deeper. They'd like them to be more intimate. They want these people to call them and reach out to them, not just when they need something, but just for the companionship, or, hey, let's go for a walk, or, hey, not what do you think of the color of the sofa,
Right.
but they want really deep connection.
Yes.
And I hear this from women all the time. They feel taken advantage of, or that it's an imbalance in some way, that they're always the one planning the event, planning the get together. They're always the one doing the reaching out. And I would say, maybe you are accepting breadcrumbs. Not for sure, but perhaps you are, to really look at that. So the question then, I think, is if that's what you're doing in your dating life, in your friendships, with your family, at work, how do we use our agency to take a little bit of control over what it is we're doing with our time,
Yes.
how we're reaching out to people, how we're communicating with people, and saying, hey, I'd love it if you would reach out to me. I desire us to spend more time together, to grow closer. How can we make that happen? It's having those kinds of conversations.
I agree. And I think that also comes back to knowing what you want and what you need from a relationship, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship. My mother was diagnosed with breast cancer in 2016. She's doing great now. She's been in remission for a long time. But one of the things that I was, when something like that happens and you post it on Facebook, my mom has cancer, here's the next steps. It's really interesting to see who shows up and who totally disappears off the face of the earth. And there was this one, family that we grew up with who she was really close with, who not once ever reached out to her to wish her well, to see how she was doing, to post a prayer emoji. I mean, nothing. And she remembers that to this day. Every time I bring them up, she's like, yeah, remember when they didn't reach out to me when I had cancer?
And they were close friends.
They were close friends.
Yeah, it's strange.
It's really strange. I think people have weird reactions to like any life event if they don't know how to handle it or they don't know what to say, and they just disappear altogether instead of doing something or reaching out. And to your point, maybe the intention is there if they're asking other people about you, but they could just reach out to you and say, hey, I know that this is a really tough time. I'm here for you.
I think it says so much more about those other people than it does anything else. So it's not that they didn't care about your mother. I would venture to guess, I don't know who these people are, they probably do care, but to your point, they don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. It's people's intolerance of being in discomfort. We don't like it. You know those people in your life who they like when you're happy and tell a good story. The second you say, I'm kind of having a hard time, they get uncomfortable. Those are the people we're talking about. They don't know how to handle bad news oftentimes.
Yes.
And when in reality, you don't have to say the perfect words. It's just about showing up and holding space for people when they're going through a difficult time.
Exactly.
I remember that even, again, in the divorce when I was having such a hard time, there were people who would ask questions that felt probing and weird and inappropriate. They wanted to know what happened. Did he cheat? Are you going to get alimony? Are you going to sell the house? Weird questions like that.
Yeah.
I don't know you like that. That's strange. I just don't think I would ask a person a question like that. And then the people who just showed up and said, hey, bring in dinner. Let's hang out. Let's watch a movie. Let's do something else. So when people have a hard time showing up for you, and maybe that is the same case with that couple I mentioned who just dropped my ass.
They were uncomfortable.
They were uncomfortable and thought it somehow was a betrayal to my ex-husband to still be talking to me. I don't know. I'd like to give them the most generous interpretation and believe that was the case. And maybe I'll get there someday. But and because this isn't meant to be an indictment against people who don't show up. But you're right. Times of crisis can have a way of bringing up like who shows up. In the case of your mom, so interesting. Maybe a neighbor you don't even know that well shows up and brings a casserole, but then the good friends didn't say anything, and it's just you just note it.
Yeah,
you just note it. But
you tuck it to the side, and I want to talk a little bit about that generosity piece of being generous to those around us and having compassion, because you tuck that information in the back of your mind.
You do. You remember it. Your mom remembers those people didn't reach out to her. Yeah.
Yes. And if you ever complain to your mom about somebody who wronged you, your mom remembers who wronged you as well. But I think let's go back to that. You tuck that information away in the back of your mind. There were also some situations with your divorce and the circumstances around it where you had to decide to have compassion for everybody involved, even if you felt that they didn't deserve it. Mm-hmm. Or even if somebody on the outside, maybe it's not whether you think they deserve it or not, but if I'm telling you that somebody did this to me and I'm like, yeah, screw that person, like forget about them. And you're like, let me go inwards and find some compassion. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So I found out that my then husband had in fact been cheating on me. And I didn't find this out until way after he had moved out of the house. We were actually already divorced when I got confirmation that what I had suspected when we were still married was going on wasn't happening. And I tell this story not to badmouth him. I probably seems that way. And I assure you it's not because of that. I tell you the story because of the relevance of how it is today. Mm-hmm. I was gaslit relentlessly by him when I would ask about this person and said, something seems strange. You seem a little too interested. I don't know, a gut feeling. No, you're crazy. You're controlling. I've always been faithful to you. What are you talking about? And it caused more division at a time when I thought we were supposed to be trying to work on our marriage. And it made me feel like I was losing my mind because I thought, okay, I mean, he's saying he swears he never has, but why do I feel this way? And oh my gosh, maybe I am crazy. Maybe I am paranoid. Maybe this is a me problem. And then I find out, oh no, he was in fact having an affair when you were still married. And oh my God, it was so validating, but it also pissed me off so bad. Yes. And I hated her and I super hated him for, a good long while. I didn't want to walk around with that though. And I got to a point where I've said on a previous episode of this Wake Up to Your Life podcast that, I can even see his side of things. I put myself, because I value compassion and empathy. And I think that if everybody could be more compassionate to themselves and to other people, we'd all be living better lives and society would be in a better place. The fighting that we see that's so rampant on cable news channels and on social media, it's so mean, and the finger pointing and the name calling, and we hate those people and we hate these people. We can agree that these people suck over here. It's not helpful. It's just not helpful. So how do we soften our hearts? How do I soften my heart to the man I was with for 23 years who lied like a rug to me for years on end, and this woman whose face I wanted to smash, and I hated her. Mm-hmm. How do I let go of that? And listener, you're thinking of someone right now who wronged you, and you're hanging on to it. And I don't care if it was something that happened 20 years ago. If you haven't processed it, you're still hanging on to it, and you can get mad all over again as if it just happened 5 minutes ago, as if the offense just happened. Here's what I decided, and I have said that I think forgiveness takes a long time. Mm-hmm. I don't believe in you just forgive. I can't do that. I don't know how to do that. It's never worked for me. I think it's piece by piece you start to forgive. That's at least in my experience. But when it comes to, and I don't even know that I wouldn't use the word forgive, that I've fully forgiven my ex-husband and his girlfriend.
It's still so fresh.
It is. Recent. I mean, I only found that out, the affair thing, a year ago. So
yes, that's really fresh.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say I've fully forgiven them, but the way I've softened it so that I don't walk around hating them and thinking about it all the time and being pissed off and telling the story about it is that I don't want what other people do to change me because, and this gets back to the journey of really knowing yourself, knowing what you care about, knowing what your values are, knowing who you are. That's when you're better for people in the world. That's when you're better in your friendships and your relationships with your family and your romantic partner. I think we show up better at work when we know these things about ourselves. And having tumultuous relationships across the board can lead you to this place. That's the good news. So if you're having shitty friendships and relationships right now with people, this can help bring you to the journey that I want to take you on, the thing I'm trying to get you to do.
Yes, let's go.
So I just don't want what other people do to affect what I care about, which is to be compassionate. So I forced myself to sit with some of the things that my former husband used to say to me that, he wanted me to be sweeter and he just wanted some things to be different, that maybe that was his way of trying to tell me, I'm unhappy or I want things to change. And I just wouldn't hear it. I wouldn't listen to it. And for him, that maybe it was so hard and he felt so alone, that's what led him to have an affair. I'm not saying it's okay, but I'm saying there's I can understand that. If he was feeling alone in his marriage, pretend I'm not talking about him and me, pretend I'm talking about two other people and someone's telling me the story. I can say, yeah, not great that he cheated, but gosh, I can understand why you fall into the arms of a woman at work if you're not satisfied at home and you're not sure how to have that conversation.
Right.
So that allowed me to have some compassion for the cheater, which sounds nutso. And there are days when I can get mad, when I can still get mad, right? But I spend more time in this space because it's better for me and because it allows me to be the compassionate person I wish to be in the world. So that is what I'm suggesting. I do think there are offenses that you cannot forgive. I do believe that. And I'm not asking listeners to go out and forgive everybody in their lives. I'm just asking you to think about what's important to you, what kind of person do you want to be, and don't let ugliness on the outside of you change that about you.
Yes. And, I want to hear what is next for you in terms of dating and what you are looking to manifest in a relationship. We're going to talk about manifestation a little bit. But what I'm hearing is that you are looking for peace. You're looking for peace and a sense of ease in your life. And when we walk around with anger and hatred and all these heavy, heavy, heavy emotions, it makes peace very, very difficult to find. So do you feel like in this work of searching for compassion, that you've been able to find that sense of peace? Or do you feel that lightness? Or does it still feel as heavy as it did before?
Oh, I feel so much lighter. I physically feel lighter too. I mean, everything just feels lighter. And I can talk about how I got there if you'd like to hear that story. And how I think, how do we lighten the load if we're carrying a lot of anger? And I'm not saying you have to make it disappear. Sometimes it's right to be angry. And we're all going to feel all of these things at some point in our lives. They come and they go. But that was the thing I realized, our feelings are like the weather clouds. They come, they go, they morph, they change, they come back, they go away again. When I decided I don't want to walk around being a bitter, pissed off, victimized person. My husband left me, he cheated on me. Oh my God, those friends, they left me. That's not a great story to tell. Not saying it wasn't real. There was a time for it, a little bit of a pity party. But I didn't want that to be my story. I had these beautiful children that came out of that relationship. And my husband and I, for many years, were very happy. So it's not as if any of it was a waste at all.
Even with the friends, you talked about going on vacations together and raising your kids together. You're smiling and lighting up. We could see that. Those memories are still there.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And I'm so glad for all the time that I spent with them and our families and the dinners we made and the card games we played and all the things we did. Great memories, great time of my life. It was so fun. It was great family fun. I was glad to give that to my children. I don't talk to those people to this day. We are not in relationship, and I'm sure I won't hear from them, and I won't be reaching out to them either. But I don't. Well, I still hate them a little bit. But just hear me out. I'm just trying to be honest about it because I know that this is not a simple thing that I'm saying to do. And I don't mean everybody gets a pass for bad behavior in your life. That's not what I'm talking about. Let me make that very clear. People who are treating you badly, they don't just get a pass. I'm not saying you just go, okay, it's cool because now I'm zen and cool and everything's all right. That's not what I mean at all. But you can hold it with you just hold it differently. So when it comes to, I've gotten off on such a tangent, I forgot where I was going with the point. I was going to say, I've been run over by a train of thought is what has happened to me. How I got to this place of the journey of knowing myself more and self-love and
peace.
And peace. That was the question. How do I get peace? When I was dating around a lot, when I had no business dating anybody because I was in so much pain and I was just looking for the next fix. It's just like looking for the next, shopping hit that you can get, the next drink, the next drug, the next porn, the next whatever your vice is, whatever the thing is that you use. It was that. I was just using men to get a hit of attention and feel okay about myself. Didn't work. And that's not peaceful either. And it all led me back to more anger at my ex-husband. If that son of a bitch hadn't have left me, I wouldn't be in this situation. Oh my God. I never experienced peace. I was just constantly had this battle going on inside of me. Started two things. One would be just talking nicer to myself, like slowing everything down, not looking for the next fix, but sitting in discomfort. If I was feeling really keyed up about something, that I wasn't going to get to see my kids for a weekend because they were going over to their dad's and I wanted them to be with me because it's a holiday weekend, and I'd get really angry. I'd get angry at him all over again, angry at his mistress all over again, angry at the stupid friends all over again. Yep. I know it was a
spiral.
It was a spiral, right? A spiral. I started slowing down, going, okay, Colleen, instead of calling somebody, some random guy who I don't even like, to be like, what are you doing? Let's go, go to the Whitewater Center. Let's go for a run. Let's go for a hike. No, sit here. What does it feel like in your body? Oh, it feels fiery and smoky and it feels tight in my chest. It's hard to breathe. Okay. I'd let myself feel it physically, what it felt like in my body, noticing the thoughts I'm having, and then just being gentler with myself, because I would also turn self-hatred toward myself. If I'd been a better wife, if I'd had more sex, if I'd made better dinners, if I'd been a little sweeter, if I wore lingerie, if I didn't wear gross 20-year-old sweatpants to bed, maybe everything would be different. And maybe it would have, I don't know, Kristen, I don't know. Would it have been different? I don't know. But the point is, I know what wasn't making things better is beating myself up for all the ways I thought I had failed him and my family. Mm-hmm. That wasn't helpful. Mm-hmm. So when I could sit with the feelings long enough to then go, okay, notice what you're saying to yourself. Then I had to take on a gentler voice and talking to yourself like you would to a good friend. Mm-hmm. This is really critical. If you've got a negative voice inside your head telling you how much you suck, how fat you are, you don't like what you see in the mirror, and then you say to yourself, you just really screwed up your diet. You ate that cookie and then you just screwed it all up, and you have no discipline. You have no willpower. What do you mean? You think you're going to find a man? You're almost 55 years old. Who's going to want you? You don't have a great job right now. Well, it's because you're too old. You're never going to get another job. We all know what that is. These voices.
These feel very ultra specific, Colleen.
Oh, do they? Really? Yeah. Is it like I'm in your head or something? Is that what you're saying? Yeah. Because we all have it.
Yes. We're all experiencing that inner voice.
Everybody.
She's a real bitch sometimes.
Isn't she? But here's the thing. We don't even get mad at her. We just let her have her say. You almost befriend her. Like you can look at her and go, hey, girl, I hear you. Let's pipe down. I know you're trying to keep me safe on some level. I know you think you're trying to help me. But bullying ourselves into better behavior never works. What does work is having compassion for ourselves. Again, how do we cultivate compassion for ourselves? Speak to yourself like you would to a good friend. If your best friend came to you and said, I just feel so gross. My clothes don't fit. Oh my God, I'm so fat. I'm disgusting. Why do you even hang out with me? Aren't you embarrassed to be seen with me? What would you say to that friend? Would you say, yeah, you're right. You look like hell. Yeah, you'd be so much cooler if you lost 10 pounds. You would never say that.
Those are the friends you don't need in your life.
Yeah, well, yeah. And if you do have friends who would say that, then they're not your friends, right?
Exactly.
But you would never say that to another
No,
person.
no.
You'd say, hey, what's going on with you?
Mm-hmm.
Hey, whoa, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow, you know I love you, right? That's what you'd say. So we have to talk to ourselves like that. And I know this sounds a little hokey, especially to, use what language works for you. If you're more of a bruh kind of a person, be like, bruh, you're all good. Speaking a language that resonates for you.
Yes.
I was not spoken to softly or sweetly as a child growing up in my house with my parents. So I really like saying sweetie to myself. I like calling myself, I do.
Your inner child.
Colleen, sweetie, it's okay. Hey, I know what, Colleen, honey, you're just worried that no one's going to love you. And now you're going around to all these guys who've reached out to you and you're looking for a fix here and you're looking for a fix there. Let me be clear. I was not having sex with these men. Okay. So just before you think it's like that, I just mean, like calling for attention to go out and get a bite to eat and maybe get a little kissy face and a little grabby, a little bit like that. It was a hit for me. Instead of doing that, like, Colleen, honey, you're hurting. Oh, it's okay. I know you're hurting. And I understand it. And you know what? I've got you. It's like learning to have your own back.
Mm-hmm.
So going through all this shit, these shit in my marriage and losing those good friends, it helped me to be able to do this. Mm-hmm. They're like, of course it hurts. Of course it hurts. And you know what? It's going to be okay. Mm-hmm. Having your own back.
Yes.
So talking to yourself like you would to a good friend. And then the other thing I do is a self-compassion practice, a meditation.
Tell me
And
more about that.
Yeah, it's beautiful. And again, I'm not trying to be a meditation evangelist right now because, I've done an episode on meditation. It was very good with Rachel Walt. I'd like it if we could put a link in the show notes.
We will. Don't worry.
Because it was such a good episode. She
really
just made the case for meditation without evangelizing about it as to why you might want to try it. And I just know very close friends in my life, they say, oh my God, I listened to that episode. I feel like I'm supposed to meditate. Oh my God. No, try it if you want to. And you can just do it for 60 seconds. It doesn't have to be this big, go on a silent meditation retreat for 10 days. It doesn't have to be that. But loving kindness practice and meditation. And it looks like this. Bear with me, if you will, if I haven't lost you already, but you can sit down, whether it's in formal seated meditation practice, or if you don't know what that means, you can just do this while you're driving in your car and bring to your mind's eye somebody who's easy to develop feelings of affection for. Easy, like maybe it's a child, your child. Maybe it is your dog. Maybe, it's your pet. It's someone who it's easy for you to come up with like, oh, I love this person, this animal, right? And you get them in your mind's eye, see their face or whatever it is in your head, and you can say, may you be safe. May you be happy. May you be well. May you live with ease. Then go from that to yourself. Bring yourself to mind. You can even put a hand on your heart to give yourself a little hug. If that sounds weird to you, don't do that. But I do find that putting my hand on my heart helps me because my heart's usually in knots when I'm very keyed up about something. Mm-hmm. My chest is tight and I just know my heart feels like it's breaking. And so I find putting my hand on my heart very grounding. And I say to myself, and you can even use your name. I like to say, Colleen, may you be safe. May you be healthy. May you be well. May you live with ease. Even if you're not buying it, if you say that and the next thing that comes up in your head is like, oh, brother, what are you doing? Talking to yourself, you've really lost it. Or, oh, this doesn't work. Even if that voice comes up, it's okay. You just tell that voice, okay, I hear you. I hear you. You're making fun of what I'm doing to try to keep me safe so I don't lose face in front of people. But just stick with the practice. Mm-hmm. Then next you bring up someone to mind who's more of a neutral person. Maybe it's the barista who makes your coffee every morning. Maybe it's your mail carrier. Maybe it's the person at the dry cleaning when you drop it off. Someone who you see and you don't have a feeling one way or the other about. They're just a neutral person. Do the same thing for them. Then bring up somebody who it's hard for you to have those feelings for. Maybe don't bring up the most difficult person in your life, but bring up somebody who is a challenge for you and see if you can develop loving kindness for them or more compassion for them. I know there are people right now who are thinking, that's crazy. Why would I want to have compassion for people who think so different from me politically? I know people are thinking that. My case is that you're more likely to have real conversation with people on that side if you're not so angry and yelling at them and judging them the same way you don't want them to do that to you. I don't do this perfectly every time, by all means, but doing these things, talking to myself like I would to a good friend, practicing loving kindness meditation, doing this on a daily basis really helped me to have more compassion for myself, which also led me to have more compassion for others. So it did help me to think, you know what? I've been so focused on how he wronged me in my marriage and how unhappy I was and how I felt he didn't pay enough attention to me and how he made me feel crazy. And those things, some of those things were true. Mm-hmm. I would have liked more attention. And some of the things he said did make me feel crazy, right?
Yeah.
But when I think about what his experience was, he was with somebody who he wasn't getting what he needed from. He was with me and he was not getting what he needed and maybe didn't know how to communicate with that with me. That must have been very hurtful for him too. Mm-hmm. So there's a part of me, I can just have a softer spot. Mm-hmm. I ran into him over the weekend. He was with my son at a golf tournament. I was also at the golf tournament and I was texting my son, hey, I want to see you, come give you a hug. Mm-hmm. And I did. And I saw my ex and we gave each other a hug and it was fine and civil. And it wasn't like this 2 years ago.
Yeah.
My son would have said, I'm not telling you where we are. I don't want you to yell at dad at the golf tournament, because it wouldn't have been like that. Yeah. And it is now. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's progress.
100% it's progress.
And it comes back to what you said earlier when we started talking about me desiring peace.
Yes.
It's a value. Mm-hmm. I grew up in such a chaotic household. There was no peace. I thought it was normal to idle high when I was 7 years old. Like I thought that was a normal, and that feeling stayed with me well into adulthood. And then I picked TV as a career and it's very high pressure and I was always going like this. Like I thought it was normal to be in that state all the time.
Yes.
I don't think it is.
No, it's
not.
Definitely not. Mm-hmm.
Right? And I desire peace. I love calm. I love calm people. This is how screwed up I was. I used to think calm people were boring. Because I was so dysfunctional, right? I needed the high highs and my low lows were, and I love people who bring a sense of calm with them when the shit's hitting the fan and they can remain calm. And when I feel peace in people's presence. And now I'm able to do that for myself too.
That's that full circle of you were looking to fill a void by going out and seeking it in other people.
Booty calls. Hey, Colleen,
light,
you up?
Booty call light. Yeah, exactly.
Booty call light, yeah. Wasn't a full-blown booty call, but hey, Colleen, you up? I mean, I guess so. Come on over,
And now you found that in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that inner validation of, I was right. I was right the whole time that I knew something was going on. I wasn't crazy. And, things could have been so different if we had found a different way to talk about it. And when you were talking about if you had a friend come to you and say, oh, I'm so ugly, I'm so fat, blah, blah, blah. It was interesting that you said the first thing you say is, what's going on? I love you. You are loved. Mm-hmm. It's not, oh, well, you want to resist the urge to say, that's not true. That's not true. You're not fat. You're not ugly, blah, 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 blah. It doesn't really matter. The thoughts that are funneling through somebody's head when they're spiraling like that, it doesn't really matter if it's true or not. It's that there's something going on under the surface that we have to help them suss out or help them find the resources to suss that out, whether that's a meditation or have you been to therapy lately? Can I drive with you? When you talk about running into your husband at the golf course, that's what all this work was for, so that you could have those moments where now you get to spend more quality time with your sons because there's not that heavy feeling of I'm going to have a reaction to seeing this person or they're going to say the wrong thing and set me off or whatever, because you've done that work.
Correct.
To have that.
Correct. Now, I will tell you, I don't want to see her face around. I'm not there yet, but I'm working on that.
Yeah.
I'm working on that because if she's going to remain in his life, and I know she's around my children, I have to soften there. And sometimes I'm good. Sometimes I'm okay. Like I don't get so weirded out in my brain when I think about it. And I can let it go, but I'm not totally there yet. So that's why I'm saying, like, I tell you this as a person who is messy and figuring out as well. I just know that these are some things that have helped me have the peace I'm looking for. And and I hope that you want that, listener. I hope that you're hoping to have some peace in your life in whatever arena it is. But the reason that I think I'm not accepting booty calls or, the breadcrumbs. I'm not accepting a breadcrumb. It's because I have learned how to help myself and tend to my heart when it is hurting. If I can't immediately get a hold of a friend who can bear witness to my pain, I can do this for myself. We still need our people. We all need people. We need community. But if you can't access them immediately, how you can minister and nurture your own heart, I can do that now. And I can sit and tolerate the aloneness and not do anything. Not open wine, not online shop. Not every time. But I can resist the nachos. I can just sit there and be with it. And after a while, you start to notice it subsides. If you're not feeding it, if you're creating a little bit of distance between you and the narrative you've got going on, you're able just to kind of watch it leave or morph, not be so edgy anymore. And that helps you to love yourself. And when you love yourself well, you will not tolerate booty calls. You will not say yes to every request that's made of you at work. Yes. Those petty ones, and those requests I'm talking about, the petty ones that take up your time, but you're so afraid of people not liking you. You're a chronic people pleaser, so you say, yes, 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 I don't want to be seen as disagreeable, so I'll say yes, but they're taking time away from what you're really there to do. And if you have aspirations of being promoted, don't do that piddly little shit every time.
Yeah.
Don't do it just because, but you're so good at planning the parties. Oh, okay, I'll plan the party. The party ain't going to get you a promotion. I'm not saying the party's not important. If you love planning parties and you're the office person who does that because you have a gift for it, great. If you enjoy it, it fills your cup, do it. If it doesn't, don't say yes. That, because you're hoping, and then I'll get the promotion. Guess what? You won't. So when you start to honor yourself, your true self, what really lights you on fire, when you honor that stuff, you don't take breadcrumbs. I'm not even tempted now. Some hot-ass guy from my past reached out to me now with the you up text, the letter you up text.
Not the letter U.
I don't even answer it. I don't even answer it.
Yeah.
I mean, oh my God, look at this
block.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even care.
Yeah.
Whereas, 3 years ago, I might have engaged in conversation, looking for a little hit of give me a compliment, give me a little something. Now, I don't care. I don't need that. I don't want that.
Yeah.
That is not a real substitution for relationship. I want relationship. If I can't have it, I'm okay alone, but I want relationship. So I hope all of this rambling has made a point. I hope.
Yes, it definitely has. I think that we've come full circle from the booty calls to the self-love. And I think that there's so much about you learn to find compassion for others, which then allowed you to have compassion for yourself. Or maybe it was
the other way around,
the other way
probably,
around,
I
finding
think.
compassion for yourself
Yes.
first, really nurturing that inner child. Have you read the book Burnout?
No.
It's by Emily and Amelia Nagoski, they're sisters. And I just finished it over the weekend, but they conclude it with, it's a amazing, amazing book. Speaking of like topics that could be a little bit divisive, it's about how burnout, a lot of it is rooted in patriarchy and like the systems that keep women of color oppressed and women in general. And so it wraps up with that we all have this like mad woman inside of us, which to your point is the one that's criticizing you all the time and of course you were wrong and you don't deserve this and blah, blah, blah. And when we can actually, think about what that person looks like and what do they act like and what are their mannerisms, that we can start to have some compassion for, okay, I can see why you feel this way about these things and that you're trying to keep me safe, but I'm good. I'm good. What do you need, mad woman in my attic? Like, what is it that you need to calm down and be a little bit quieter?
Like I was saying earlier, if you remember that I said befriend it, turn to it, turn to that thing in your head and just like, hi anger, hi jealousy, hi criticism.
Yes.
Hi, whatever that, like look at it, face it, and it kind of disarms it. As opposed to it, you're not saying like, it doesn't mean you're going to over-identify with it. You're just noticing it.
Yes.
And on some level, that voice in your head is trying to keep you safe. Don't speak up in the meeting. Your idea is going to be bad. They're going to shoot you down. Don't you dare say it. That's going to be wild. If you raise your hand and you bring up that topic, everyone's going to think you're weird. No, that's just trying to keep you safe.
Yes.
But really, what you value is growth. You value innovation, maybe. You value sharing of ideas, being a contributor. Then you need to speak up. That's why it comes back to knowing yourself, loving yourself. What the hell matters to you, really? Not the stuff that you think you're supposed to say matters to you. What really matters to you. Getting so clear about that. And I went for many decades never really even asking myself that question, what matters to me?
Yeah.
I'd say, my family, my friends, and my health. I go deeper than that. Go deeper than that.
It sounds like it took a lot for you to realize that peace was that top spot and in terms of your priorities, your values, because you went for so long thinking that it was normal to not have peace and that, peace is boring.
Oh, it's boring.
So you had to learn about yourself that you actually really, really value that. And man, if there's any other value that requires you to actually be quiet and slow down a little bit, it's figuring out that you want peace and calm in your life. So you couldn't get there if you didn't take that time for yourself. I'm really proud of you.
Thanks. Thank you. I'm proud of me too. I think I've done a good job with that. And like I said, I'm still working on it. But I hope I've made the case for other people to stop accepting the stuff that's not reaching what you want it to be in your life. I mean, if your friendships feel not close enough, or you're the one always you feel like each time you're putting out the effort, 10 times out of 10, you're the one who's instigating the hangout, the let's do something, let's go to the movies, let's go to dinner, and it's not being reciprocated, maybe pause and feel those feelings and notice, why am I chasing this person so hard when she or he is not wanting to hang out with me? Why am I chasing so hard? And answer those questions and spend time in that. And then you start to realize, I don't need to chase that person. There's all these other people who want to hang out with me.
Yeah.
Right? I don't need to go out with this stupid guy because he's cute and acts like he's into me when I know we're gonna hang out and I'm not gonna hear from him again for 2 weeks. You don't accept the breadcrumbs in your life.
Don't accept the breadcrumbs. That is the core takeaway. And figuring out what's important to you. Love yourself. It's not always easy to love yourself. But it's worth the work.
100% it's worth the work. And this isn't just some out there thought that you hear dodo life coaches on Instagram say. That kind of is irritating to me. It always just leaves me feeling a little, like this beautifully curated picture. Love yourself. And you're thinking, well, damn, if I looked like that and had all that, I'd love myself just fine. I know that's what you're thinking. But the research proves, it bears out that this actually works. More love for yourself leads you to be more loving with other people. More love for yourself, less criticism. Like I said, you can't bully your way into these things, of getting a better job or making more money or, finding love of your life or getting in better shape. Doesn't work. But love and compassion do.
Yes.
So
they sure do.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for having me on the podcast.
Well, gee, thanks.
The special guest host.
You did an excellent job. I appreciate it.
Thank
Thanks
you.
for making me not just sit here and talk at everybody. Thanks for doing this with me. But again, thank you so much for joining us. This is the Wake Up to Your Life podcast. If you know someone who can benefit from listening to this episode, someone who is really hard on himself, really hard on herself, send this to them and let them know that we get it and they don't have to suffer alone. No one should suffer alone. All right. Peace out. Thank you so much for listening to the Wake Up to Your Life podcast. I love connecting with you, so reach out to me on Instagram at Colleen_Odegaard. My podcast is also on YouTube now, so you can leave a comment on the podcast episode and tell me what resonated with you. You can subscribe to my channel at the link in our show notes. Thanks again, and I'll see you in the next episode.